Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to this program this evening, celebrating Black excellence and success in Oregon. My name is Nicole Volkin. I'm the editor of The Source Weekly, and I'm also a co-founder of this program, co-sponsored by Love Your Neighbor and graciously produced in conjunction with Oregon State University Cascades. So tonight I'm going to introduce you to our panelists, as well as our moderator. I want to thank each of the panelists for being here for this event that is part of Black History Month. It's going to be a candid discussion, bringing together some folks from Central Oregon, leaders who've experienced lots of things as they've risen to their current positions. We're going to hear about the benefits and drawbacks of stepping into public roles, the challenges each of them faces in a state where Blacks only represent 2.9% of the population, and what leadership styles are most effective to advance a more equitable society. So thanks to each of you for being here tonight. Our panelists tonight include Terrance Harris. He's the director of the Lonnie B. Harris Black Cultural Center at Oregon State University's campus in Corvallis. We also have Marcus Legrand. He's a college and career success coach with Central Oregon Community College. He's also a board member for Ben Lapine Schools here in Central Oregon. We also have Ruffin. She's a manager of central services for the city of Bend and a member of the city manager's office. And finally, we have our moderator tonight is Erika McCalpine. She's the executive director for strategic diversity initiatives at OSU-Cascades. She's the director of the Campus Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Laboratory, and she is the president of the OSU Faculty Senate. It is my honor to introduce her tonight. So take it away, Erika.
Thank you so much, Nicole. And I want to thank each of our panelists for participating tonight. Thank you all for being here. So thank you for joining us to celebrate Black excellence and success. Black History Month is often a time when we honor the heroes of our past and acknowledge the history that our ancestors endured. This year, I have been intentional about honoring the past while also celebrating the present to inspire the future. Our conversations tonight will be assisted with participation from you, our audience, and we'll do that via the Mentimeter app as we do for our virtual events. Folks may submit questions to the panel via the Menti app found either by going to www.menti.com or via download through your app store. Simply put the event code on the screen and then submit your questions throughout the presentation. For convenience, you may also find the QR code on the screen now, also with the code that you need to enter. We look forward to your questions. I also want to emphasize that Love Your Neighbor is focused on highlighting people of color in our community, region, and state. Tonight, I have asked 3 Oregonians to join us to share their paths to success and experiences as we hope we represent your experience, as their paths to success and experiences as Black professionals in Oregon. That's a real live blooper. There are many more than 4 of us. As we have this discussion, we want to honor you, and we hope that we are honoring your experiences as well. While success can mean different things to different people, in 2022, some of us are the first in various roles that we have, which speaks to the need to share with you, our neighbors, what our path has been so that we can make it less challenging for those that come behind us. By no means am I saying that every day is a hard day. It certainly is not. However, for some of us, it has meant being willing to adjusting to a new way of life or not being willing to. Please listen with your hearts and minds open and consider what you can do to make Oregon a place where everyone feels welcome. Oregon shouldn't be a place where anyone suffers through their time here. We have a responsibility to make it feel like home for everyone. So I'm going to start tonight by asking each of our panelists to share what being Black at this moment in history means to them. Under normal circumstances, I will start with the woman in the group, OV, but I can see her thinking. So let me go to Mr. Legrand, who is probably prepared with that answer.
you know how I feel about it. It's emancipating for me because at all the work I've done helping a lot of students understand how they can be successful in this world, it feels so good. It's like there's a wall and they're just busting through it and it's perfect. It's like watching the Matrix and you can see when the sentinels are coming and they're breaking through, but Neo puts his hand up and says, no more, we're done. That's how I feel right now, being in the position I'm in. Thank you. Thanks for that question, Erika. That was awesome.
Yes, of course. Terrance, how about you?
Could you repeat it one more time, please?
Sure.
Yeah.
Please share what being Black at this moment in history means to you.
Thank you. In this moment in history, it's every day. I'm proud to be Black every day of my life. So regardless if it was today, yesterday, or tomorrow, I think for me in particular, it is a moment of pride. It's a moment of conviction. It's a moment of perseverance. I can constantly, every day, think of my ancestors and my grandparents and great-grandparents and people that have come before me, and to see where I have risen and being blessed to be in positions that they have dreamed or fought for us to be able to stand and be in positions to be over centers, to live in this state, never thought about living here. And so it's I feel like I'm living my ancestors' wildest dreams, or doing my best into doing it each day.
Absolutely. I feel the same way. Ovi, what about you?
So first of all, I probably should have gone first. That's the first thing. Second thing is, this is probably the first time I've been referred to as an Oregonian. Everybody knows I'm from North Carolina. And so when you said it, I was like, is she talking about me? And what it means to be Black means something different today than it did after being out here for a year, than it did a year ago when I was in North Carolina, right? Because in North Carolina, I was one of many. I could go to the grocery store. I worked with Black people. I lived with Black people. So my best friends are Black people. Then I moved to Oregon, and I am one of very, very, very few. What it means right now is that I get to be a safe space. I get to be a space of learning. I get to be a space of impact. I get to not only create space for people to learn and grow and ask questions and come in my office and say, can we just talk about something real quick? And will you not be offended? And I'm like, depends on what you're gonna say, right? But in the grand scheme of things, that's how change happens. Change happens because you allow people to ask questions that they wouldn't be able to ask, right? Say things that they wouldn't be able to say, and give you space to be like, don't you say that to nobody else. So that's kind of what being Black means right now, is being in a space to be able to teach people and impact people and leave people better off than they were before I got here, and influence how they're gonna feel about our race after I'm gone. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Something that Ovi just said made me think about how each of us bears the burden of being an example. We did not ask to be the face for our race when we moved to Oregon. We each came with our own individual objectives in mind. I came for a job, and it turned into a very public life that sometimes I find challenging. It puts me in the spotlight in a way that if I lived somewhere else, I would just blend in, right? But here we are all under a magnifying glass or a spotlight, if you so to speak, and the stakes are higher for us. If we mess up, or if we slip, or if we make a faux pas of some sort, it can impact how our organizations see our people, and that is stressful. So if the audience doesn't know, I will tell you that is stressful, and it is a very, very heavy cross to bear. So thank you all for sharing what it means to be Black at this moment in history. So I'll ask each of you to quickly share what brought you to Oregon, and share your path to success for those in our audience that might want careers like yours. So this time I will start with Ovi.
So I say very often that I think Bend, Oregon found me. So I never even heard of Bend, right? I won't speak for everybody in North Carolina, but what I will say is that when I think about Oregon, I think about Portland, right? Like, what's a Bend, right? I don't ski, I don't hike, I don't even like the cold weather. Stop laughing at me, Terrance. I don't even like the cold weather, right? This is not somewhere I vacation. Like, when I think of vacation, I think of warm weather and blue water and drinks with umbrellas, right? Not being weighed down with all sorts of extra clothes, right? And snow. That is not my idea of fun. So I have worked in local government for over 14 years, decided I wanted to do something different, wrote down what I wanted that to look like on my vision board, and apparently left out location, right? And so God, in his sense of humor, was like, I got something for you. And so the job opened up. When they called me to tell me that I had the job, I thought it was a spam call about my auto warranty, because like, who's calling me from Oregon, right? And I had, like I said, I had been in local government, and there was an opportunity that opened up that afforded me the opportunity to grow professionally. And so I jumped at the opportunity. It was everything that I had written down that I wanted. And so when I came out here to interview for the job, first of all, I immediately connected with some of my coworkers who have really been some of the more amazing people that I've met. I have definitely made some forever friendships there or here. And when I came out, one of my prayers was, all right, God, because of course I did the research, right? I was like, ain't no Black people out there. And then of course, when I started telling people at home I was going to work in Oregon, they were like, well, Ovi, ain't no Black people out there. And I said, okay. So I said, all right, God, if this is my assignment, I need you to make me strong, right? I need you to make sure that I can endure the things that I might encounter, even though I didn't really know what they were. And so the process continued, and I ended up here, and I work in the city manager's office. And so work is what brought me here. And I must say that even though I am going back to North Carolina, I am still very connected to the work, and very connected to the people, and very connected to the ability to impact people. And so even though the experiences were tough, the decision to leave was tougher because of the work and the ability to make an impact and make an influence that exists. So.
Thank you. And we're going to talk about your decision to leave a little bit later. But if Terrance, if you could share with us your path to Oregon, and also share your path to success for those that might want a career like yours.
Sure. Like Ovi, I would, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky originally, so I've only lived in the South. And I moved here most recently from Orlando. So hearing about Oregon, there wasn't even on my radar. Didn't go, ironically, I never went skiing until like 2 weeks ago, because my best friend's birthday, we went to Denver. So that was a great experience. You should go and check them slopes out. But anyway, I would say, it was one of my really good friends out here, Jason Dorsett, actually recruited me to come to Oregon to work at Oregon State. The position, my current role as director of the Black Cultural Center, the center they were originally in houses, and this building that I'm in now was just built in 2015, and they needed a new director to actually be in it. They hadn't had a director in the space, and he kept telling me about it. And I was like, no. And I was really adamant, because I was like, ain't nobody in Oregon. You might be in there. Have fun. He's from North Carolina too. I'm like, I'm not coming. You're right. And so, but the opportunity that I had, that was actually where I wanted to be in Atlanta. I was a finalist twice and was denied twice. And I was the best candidate and still didn't get the role. So I just knew that it wasn't meant for me to be there. Apparently, God had something better for me. And you were saying that it really just told me about a faith walk. That's what you had to take it and walk with it. And so I said, I give it a try, and I applied, and I got the role. And I wasn't even the first candidate for this position. I was the second. The first person denied. They didn't want the opportunity to take the job, and I was the next person in line. So that was heaven sent. So, I came out here off of that. And, it's been a blessing to be able to be here and to do this work and to communicate and network. I don't live in Bend. I live actually in Salem, and I work in Corvallis down at Oregon State. So being on campus and really not knowing anybody and really having to develop a network, develop a community, rebuild a community that had been hurt. We have been hurt. We have not been treated fairly by any means on this campus, and history has shown us that. And having to go through those adversities. So it's been a blessing, to say the least. And I'm truly grateful for somebody who wants to go into higher education. The most thing I would tell you is to be open, first of all, and be vulnerable. Vulnerability is not easy, but it is necessary. It's growth. It really allows you to see more of the gifts and talents that you have within yourself that you never even thought existed. For me in my journey in higher education so far, I've been, denied and rejected so many times. And I know I was qualified, but that door wasn't for me to walk through. So I'm not mad about that. In fact, I'm grateful for that. And because that wasn't where I needed to be, and it wasn't the support systems that I needed at that time in my life. So if you're going to go through higher ed, I would encourage you to be open. I would encourage you to believe in yourself and have a good set of mentors around you that will guide you and give you the courage and direction and challenge you in ways that will motivate you and move you. And for me, I work with students every day. That's the reason why I'm here. It's my lifeline to be here. If they're not here, then I'm out. And that's really what's kept me here for as long as I have, and being able to be a vessel for their development. And I get to see Black people every day. So not everybody can say that, and I'm very fortunate for that. And so I'm having to be so many different things at so many different times, but it's allowed me to see that's truly who I am at the core of it all. So that's what helped me. I can give you more tips if you want to know about higher ed, but I'll stop right there.
All right. Thank you so much. Something that you said is leading me down a different path. So Marcus, we're going to get back to you and what led you to Oregon in just a moment. But you mentioned building community. And building community is a challenge. And I need for our audience, especially those that are not of color, to understand that building community for us means that we have to be open to our communities looking very, very different from perhaps where we're from or where we grew up. And Terrance also mentioned hurt. I cannot tell you the amount of pain that I have experienced trying to befriend, have friends, help. And that struggle is real for people of color. And I need you all to hear that. I need you to know it. And I need you to understand that when you see us in these public spaces and we are speaking our truth, know the sacrifice that comes along with that. So Marcus, I'll come back to you. If you have something to say about what I just said, or if you want to share your path to success.
See, there was a couple things I heard what Terrance and Ovi said as well, is that you got to see Black people every day in your work environments, in those diverse environments where they got to build and create together. And we got to not only struggle, we got to laugh, and you understood the inside joke. You could say little things and they get it, and you realize, okay, I got to be quiet right now. Or hey, this is an opportunity for us to grow. Let's do this. So we all on that same wavelength, and you live on that energy. And I really truly understand where you're coming from, where it's hard to find different people to be able to connect with. Because yes, I understand where you're coming from. I've been backstabbed, pulled through it, told one thing, lied to, all kinds of things. So it's unfortunate. But at the same time, I'm still going to continue to rise up and do the right thing for my people, because that's the right thing to do. And in terms of my success right now, my path was, I was going to be a marketing genius is what I wanted to do. I was in sales and marketing for a number of years, for almost 15 years before I actually became an educator. I worked for American Honda and I was loving it. But Terrance, unfortunately, I'm going to disagree a little bit. I was a little upset when I was passed over for VP spots. I was a little upset when I knew I was the number one person in every category that existed at my company and you get passed over. It hurt because you knew you were going to set a great example for the other people who looked like you to be able to be successful. And too many times, even in higher ed, and I'll be honest, there's not many people who look like us in those higher roles that are necessary for us to have mentors and success. And yes, we always take it in stride and we move forward and we keep persevering. But those do hurt. I'm not going to sit here and say they don't. Or you get your hopes up and you finish second like 1,000 times. It really does not feel great sometimes. But the cool part is I do have connections like Erika, connections like different people who live here in town. And I can reach out to them and say, hey, that one hurt. And they'll be like, don't worry about it. You got it. We still know who you are. And that's the main thing that I love. The reason I got into higher ed was because I saw a lot of students who looked like me struggling. When I was in undergrad, I used to volunteer a lot in the inner cities of Seattle and watched all those students be able to not understand what path they had ahead of them if they were going to go to college. And many of these students were they were great students with mediocre in terms of grades, but they were just brilliant. I'm like, why are these schools not giving these students an opportunity? So we really tried to build a pathway for that. And that was phenomenal. And I did the same thing in Los Angeles and I did the same thing in Michigan. And I just wanted to make sure that these students had an opportunity to continue to grow and get access to resources. So if you're ever going to go down the path of trying to be in higher ed, please do me a big favor, do your research, learn the environments you're going to be working in, talk to people who work there if you can. And I'm always, anytime I go to a campus, I always look for people who like me because I know they're going to give me the truth about what's going on these campuses, right? So that's the key thing I always try to do. Also find mentors and who can help you within higher ed or even in business if that's what you want to go into. Always have that mastermind group of people who can help you make decisions. And then most of all, continue to have your faith. It's going to be great. If you don't have that, you're going to have nothing at all. Because every time my mom gets off the phone, she always says the same thing to me, baby, I'm praying for you. And by the way, I'm from North Carolina too. You know what, NC till I, hey, baby forwards till the real falls off. Anyway, so I'll let her know what that means. So yeah, I'm sorry. It's a Charlotte thing. So anyway, just want to let you know, Erika, thank you for, allowing me to talk about that. But I'm telling you, just have people around you who can help you be successful is what it boils down to.
Thank you. And Marcus, we're getting some feedback from your mic. So hopefully Scott or one of the tech team will reach out to fix that in just a moment. So also, just to let you know, Marcus and Terrance are in the same fraternity. So if we see some hand signs and gestures going on, that's what that's about. So I want to talk about my path, just in case people are curious. So I worked in industry. I have degrees in business management, and I worked in industry for a while and noticed that managers, wow, they can be tough at times, and people without the proper training to be a manager often aren't very good at it. And so I got into higher education and wanted to just influence young minds, young leaders, young managers going into organizations. When I moved to Oregon, I had experiences related to race. The first time I was ever called the N-word was in Bend. And my son experienced being called the N-word at school. And I knew then that there was work to do here. However, being Black is not enough to do that work. And so I went back and got a certification in diversity, equity, and inclusion from Cornell University. And I'm a firm believer in speaking to this work from an academic perspective, from the literature. And I think it helps just because it's not always my personal experience that I'm sharing. So I always don't go in with my feelings on my sleeve. And that helps to be able to be effective. And I just want to encourage anyone that's interested in doing this work to educate yourself. You will not be able to just latch on to someone else's coattails and ride them into success. You have to blaze your own path. And here in Oregon, the opportunity is there. You just have to do the work. When I moved here, nothing was handed to me. No one gave me a thing. I worked my tail off, and that's how I am where I am. So that is the biggest message that I can send. Work hard and do it with the right attitude. Show up the right way. You know, it may not be the way you want to show up initially, but in order to get in the door, you have to be the person that people want to see. So make sure that you're doing that, and then educate them to the point that they're okay and you can show up the way that you want to. Okay. Now, Marcus, congratulations on being the first Black man to be elected to the Ben Lapine School Board. Can you share with us what your experience has been running for office in Central Oregon and since being elected?
All right, I got to do my woos out here. I'm gonna be really honest. No, I'm not gonna be brilliant. I'm gonna be honest as I can be. I'm gonna be really honest with this though. There have been a lot of people who really supported, regardless of background, have been really supportive and really helping me understand what this entails. From all the way from the superintendents, you know, some constituents, some community members, even the students have been really supportive because they've allowed me to be able to engage them in a way where I never get to sometimes, and it's phenomenal, right? Especially the students. It was tough in the beginning because I really did not understand the vitriol that people had against people of color running for office. And them not realizing we weren't trying to take anything away from them. We're just trying to make space for us. That's the bottom line we're all trying to do. So our voices are heard and we can have a seat at the table. Since I've been doing this, it's a learning experience. There's a lot I didn't know about certain in terms of policy and structure and systems, the governance, all those different things that you kind of had in the fraternity, but you didn't completely had in other ways, right? Because when you're young in college doing governance, it's a little different because you're all the same age and it's kind of hard to figure out who's the leader at the moment. But when you're older, more mature, you have to go, okay, you're stepping into a role that you have privilege, you have an opportunity to engage and present different things for students that they didn't have before. You have the opportunity to listen to people and get their perspective so you can help make growth in the school systems and help the teachers grow in terms of building curriculum and learn how to, you know, engage in different ways. The hard part for me is a lot of people right now in this country, in terms of looking at what's going on from a political standpoint, and I don't want to talk politics, I hate it with a passion, I hate it with a passion, is that I think America in a whole with this is they've never been able to have to understand how to adult. Can I say that? Adulting's hard. And as our country, we're not mature and we're figuring out what that looks like. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people in that who have never had to mature, be accountable, be held accountable, know what's going on, understand it's going to take work to get things done. And a lot of the stuff that they were used to has changed. The way they see things has changed. The norms have changed. The verbiage has changed. The diversity is changing every day. And a lot of people aren't used to that. But that's the one thing, change is inevitable. They're going to have to get used to it and just accept this is where we're at. So a lot of people I'm expecting to please look in the mirror, figure out where you're at and where you want to go with the rest of the life you have remaining, and figure out how you can support and be involved in what we're trying to do. We're trying to enlighten, like I said earlier, we're not trying to take away anything. I really could sit here and just go off on people, but that's not what we're here to do. I'm here to bring people together. I don't have time to sit here and bash and think about what somebody thinks about me. I don't have time for that. I try to look past that. And I'm looking at what's behind it, what future holds for our kids who need it. And I'm telling you, I'm glad I'm in this position now because I cherish it, because I know what shoulders I stand on. I know that my grandmother, my grandfather, my enslaved great grandparents who I got to see when I was growing up as a kid understand that I'm passionate about making sure that I have a path for these students. So, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, all these detractors, because they're not detractors to me. They're just bumps in the road.
Wonderful attitude. I know some of the things you've been through, so that's a good way to look at it. Thank you for sharing. Okay, how about that? So, Ovi, I know because we're friends that your transition to Oregon hasn't been easy. Can you share with the audience what has made you decide to move back to North Carolina after living here for less than a year?
Woo, you want one thing or you want all the things?
Anything that's related to this community that can help make it better for the person that comes after you.
Okay. So my transition, so I have lived here under a year, but I have worked here for a year, a week ago, actually. And when I first took this job, I would fly out here and I would be here for a week to 10 days a month, right? I would live in a hotel, downtown Bend. I'd go to work. I'd make great work relationships. That's where we met. I'd go get some dinner. I'd go back to my hotel, right? There were not a ton of poor experiences during that time. And the reality is there might have been, but they were week chunks in a month, right? So anything that I was dealing with, anything that I encountered, I just had to get through the week and I was going back home. And I can remember you telling me, you're not going to get it until you move here. And I was like, it can't be that bad. I like it here, right? It's not that bad. It's a vacation. It's a vacation a month. I started looking for places. For me, they were just names on a map, right? Again, I shared with you guys, I didn't know anything about Bend. So someone said, look at Redmond, look at Bend, and look at La Pine. And the more people I said that to, they were like, do not look at La Pine. So let's just take that off the map. So I'm like, okay, let's look at Redmond and Bend. And so one of the times that I came out, so I have 3 children. I have 3 children and a grandbaby that I love very, very much. So one of the times that my daughters came out here, so they are 16, 21, and 25. My 16-year-old was going to move out here with me, or she did move out here with me. She's a junior in high school. We went to tour a high school. I just pulled it up on the map. You know, there was no rhyme or reason. And it happened to be in Redmond. And we went to the high school and it's gorgeous. It's brand new. It's like state of the art, right? I mean, and it was so amazing that my older daughter, who is out of high school, was like, can I go back to high school and like come here and go to this school? And I probably should have known, it probably should have been a bit of a flag when the high school counselor, who was a really great young lady, so this is not a knock on her, I asked about the diversity and she said, well, we have some Black students, and she went to name them. And I stopped her at like kid number 2. And I said, so if you have a population of 1,000 kids and you can name for me the Black students, that's probably not the best welcome statement. So just tell me that you have a few Black students, that you guys are trying to improve diversity, and leave it at that, right? So we moved here, we moved to Redmond. Again, for me, it was affordable, because if you guys know anything about Bend is not particularly affordable. I wanted more than 800 square feet for me and my daughter, right? For $3,000 a month. So we moved to Redmond. It was affordable for me on the map. It was a short 20-minute commute to work. We moved here, and so school started in September. Between September and November, I visited her school at least 3 times because she had been called the N-word. The very last time it happened, she also was hit with a pencil and Skittles. And she was over it. She was like, she texted me at work and was like, it's time to go. I don't want to be here anymore. And one of the things that I said to her from the very beginning was, at any point that you don't want to be out here, you can go home. We have a support system. We have people that love you. You can go home. And she said, I don't want to be here anymore. And for me, and probably for anyone that has children, probably can understand, the anxiety that came with beginning to be concerned continuously about my child's mental health. They're kids, right? So she texts me for everything, right? So if you got kids, she texts me for lunch money. She texts me because her shirt don't fit. She texts me because she scuffed her new sneakers. Like, she texts me for everything. But it got to the point that every time her name came up on my screen, there was this like anxiety that existed. She was the only Black female at her school. There were several other, Black boys, Black young men, and there were, I think, at least a couple of mixed biracial children, but she was the only Black girl. I can even remember a time where she was nominated for homecoming court. And instead of being excited, I was terrified. I was like, what happens if my Black child wins? I'm going to be the only Black parent in the stands. My Black child is going to be on the field. And I remember calling you, Erika, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I reached out to, again, I have made some amazing friendships with the women at work, right? And so I reached out to my circle at work, and I was like, I need y'all to show up. Like, y'all got to be surrogate aunties, because what I'm going to do if they call her name? Like, what am I going to do if they start a riot, right? Because much like you said before, you always have to be on. You don't get even when I was going to the school, because my child had been, the recipient of a racial slur, I can't go in the school ready to burn the school down, right? You still have to have a certain demeanor, a certain calmness, a certain amount of, come to the table and let's chat. And what I really want to say is, okay, no, we're not gonna say that out loud, but y'all got kids, So that was some of the thing. But then in addition to that, we have been profiled in Walmart almost every time we've been there. We have been, I get my nails done. I don't know if you see them, but my daughter and I get our nails done, or we try to get our nails done. We were denied nail services by 2 different salons, Asian salons. We went to a restaurant here, and if not for the white family at the table, the waitress would not have waited on us, or would have waited on us last. They were pretty much that day, the epitome of what an ally looks like, because they were our voice. They were like, well, this is not right. These people were here before. You guys got to wait on them. The final straw for me, the final straw for the decision to move back was my daughter was attacked by a dog outside of the Walmart in Bend. And for as angry as I was, I remember thinking, if I react to this dog and this homeless man, do I go to jail, or are they going to take the dog away? And at that point, I was like, I want to go home. My kid has gone home. And I will say there is the amount of anxiety that I had while she was here has definitely diminished. And I didn't even realize it, right? I didn't even realize how much anxiety that I was holding until she wasn't here and I wasn't worried about her well-being. But I also, I'm not like Terrance and Marcus. I could go 2 weeks and not see another Black person. I don't work with Black people. They don't work at my Target or my grocery store. They aren't the ones waiting on me at the restaurants. We've also been turned away by Asian people. So it started to feel like it was us against everybody else. And that just wasn't a battle I was willing to continue to fight. And I have said to Erika, I commend the work you're doing. I commend your ability and desire and willingness to stay here and look in the eye of the storm and be like, I'm here. And I did that for as long as I could. But the reality for me is, you know, I started having anxiety attacks, right? I would go home to visit to North Carolina. And then when I would come back, I had my first anxiety attack on an airplane, right? So you're on an airplane, they're not gonna open the door and let you off. So you just gotta figure it out. And my kid is here, she's afraid. And those things it gets to the point where for me, they weren't worth it. And probably the last thing I'll say around that is in the year that I've been out here, I have met maybe 4 Black women, 4. And of the 4 Black women, many of them, over half of them, have shared with me that they, shop on Instacart, they order DoorDash, they, don't go out after dark. I won't gonna call you out, Erika, but and I have said to all of the women that shared that with me, I'm not willing to live that life. Like, I didn't move 3,000 miles away from my family to become a hermit. I should be able to be in a community that if I'm working for local government, then I'm clearly working for the community, right? I am trying to make things better for the community. And I grow weary of trying to do that for a community that doesn't love me back. And one of the things you said, Erika, was like, do the work and show up. And while I can appreciate that, I, on some levels, feel like that minimizes what we actually have to do, because you have to do so much more than just show up and do the work. That's not enough. Showing up and doing the work is not always enough. And I just grew tired of having to do so much more than just show up and do the work. It doesn't matter how good I am at my job. It doesn't matter how many people I make laugh. It doesn't matter if the people that I work with love me and stand up for me, and they would come to my daughter's, high school. She didn't win. And I was so excited. She's gonna kill me if she sees this, but I was so excited that she didn't win, because I was like, thank God I don't have to, I don't have to retire. There doesn't have to be anything else, right? But I just grew really tired of having to do so much more and show up so much better every day. You don't get the opportunity to, people wrong you, and you have to just kind of grin and bear it or use it as a learning space. And I was just tired. So that's it. I was just tired.
Thank you first for sharing. And I appreciate you being vulnerable. I appreciate you going there, because these are the things that this community needs to hear. I came with the attitude of, I am going to be successful here, period. So anything that I encountered, I was able to somehow compartmentalize. But something that you just said about, it doesn't matter how hard you work. It doesn't matter the people that like you. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, you are still Black. And if the right thing happens, for you to be reminded that you are still Black, and this is where you should be, like this is the place you should be in as a Black person, because people are okay with you as long as you are in the place that they think you should be in. But when you get to that different level, they see you differently and you become a threat instead of a colleague. So I see it, I feel it, and believe me when I say my cup is full. So I've already told you to save me a corner in the moving truck, because who knows what might be happening next. So thank you so much for sharing that. So Terrance, you mentioned earlier that you live in Salem, work in Corvallis, and we all live in Bend. So tell us in our audience about your experience as a Black man living on the other side of the mountains.
Yeah, well, first I'll say, Ovi, thank you for sharing, and I'm sorry that you, and I know, Erika, we talked about your experience too, and I just hate for 2 Black women to have to deal with that out there. If y'all was over here, I'd make sure y'all have whatever, as much as possible. My experience is similar, but not to that extent. I think for me, I have, like I said, I'm fortunate enough to see Black people every day because I direct the Black Cultural Center. So, but also I carry that burden of supporting not only Black students, but Black faculty and staff, because as I know, I have colleagues that work in spaces and they are one of that. And sometimes this is just, I'm the place to come and vent. I'm the place where you can come and relax and let your hair down and just be you unapologetically. And I mention that and I say that. And even as I do that, it continues to lit a fire in me, because I'm not ready to belittle myself for anybody that is not of my pigmentation on this space. And when I enter spaces, I've begun to just do that, because I'm not great to try to change my mode just to make you feel comfortable, and agree to your standards when I need to let you know what the real story is. So I began to operate in that space. It is not easy. Some days since I've been here, I've always had to come against people who question the work that I do and why I go the way I go so hard for my students. I'm always talking about Blackness when I have to point out their anti-Blackness in that regard, and have to educate people about what anti-Blackness really is and how you perpetuate that every day. And in your conversations and your sly remarks and the way you talk and the way you do things and your microaggressions. I've had people, I remember one time I took some students to the store. We was walking to the Circle K down here on Monroe. And I remember the cashier and to the students, one of them picked up on it, but I immediately picked up on it because I know and I've experienced it myself. And she mentioned, it was a Hispanic girl, a Black girl, myself. And she asked one of the students, did you want an orange or something? And she was like, no. Then she asked the next girl, the Black girl, do you want a banana? Yeah. And I said, okay, I'm waiting to see what you got to say for me. So, and I got some bracelets on my hand. I think I might have had on the chain or something. And she's like, oh, those are nice bracelets. I didn't think men wear bracelets. And I looked at her, I said, we do. What else you got to say? And she's like, I didn't mean to say, I'm not here for it, and I'm the type of person, I've had students come in. We've had, right across the street from our building, there was a student that put up a Confederate flag right across from the Black Cultural Center. And a lot of people was just so afraid. And I was like, I told my staff, I said, look, it was the night that we actually was getting ready to have our Black Connect, which is our welcome event that we have Black faculty, staff, and students all around. And I said, we're not ready to stop any show. I said a little bit of some other words, but I'm like, we here for this. This is our moment, and we're not gonna let anybody stop no show, because all the people was like, well, you want to cancel it? You want to stop? And I'm like, no, we're not gonna do that. I lived in a state where I see Confederate flags every day. I had to go walking down the street, or in different areas, a part of town where, and y'all from the South, people where they stand at, right? So you ain't got the question. We already know what's up. But out here, you don't get that same effect, because the same person that want to be friendly in your face is going to turn around and stab you in your back or trying to set you up. And so I had to let them know, because some of the students don't even understand that. And I'm not ready to stop letting anybody feel like they're ready to get a win because they feel like they're going to scare somebody away. And that's not how we operate. And even working with other people around here, we have to continue to encourage ourselves and empower ourselves about that. I've been in Salem where I was delivering food and I was just pulling up in the parking lot, and I had a white man come and knock up on my window, pull up on my window and try to tell me that I don't need to be pulling up in this parking lot like that. And I'm like, what you gonna do? Like, what you gonna do? You don't know what I got in my car. I could pull something out. Like, it's that kind of energy. But I try not to let it affect me. But I'm human. It's hard to not have all of my friends out here or my family out here. And And even when I have friends out here, we have the same struggle. We can't always be there at every day as much as we can. You know, we each have something individually that we have to deal with. I try to get out and go to LA. I'll go to Seattle. I'll go to Vegas. I'll go to Oakland. I'll go somewhere just so I can see some people that look like me. You know, I can't even go to a restaurant. I can't go to the gym. I can't go anywhere, particularly either without somebody questioning you, looking at you strangely, or even just existing. But I've been, like I said, I've been very grateful with working in different units and being able, the thing I was actually doing before I got on here is I work with Partners in Diversity. I was just going to these things called Say Hey, these events to help Black and Brown people, networking events, connect. And I went to it, and I've been going, and anytime that I had somebody new to Oregon, I would just, that's Black especially, like, yo, we need to take you to this so we can meet other people, because I was hearing the same stories. I was hearing the same stories, and I don't think people understand. They actually don't understand. If you don't live here, you have no idea how white it is. Period. You have no idea how white it is until you get here. And even if you visit, you only see in the spots that we go to that we feel comfortable in taking you to. You haven't even been to some of the depths. I would never go to Eastern Oregon. Bend was as far east as I've been in Oregon, and I won't go any further than that because I don't trust the people out there, and I don't trust what may happen. I am fearful for other folks, Black folks, especially going to other parts of this state, because you just don't know. It's not safe for us out there. Whether it's in Lebanon and Sweet Home. I mean, I've had some other things that have happened to me that I won't put on this call that affected me, and people try to deframe me and my character and plaster me on stuff. And it really, if it wasn't for some great allies, I don't even know where I might be, truth be told. But I found a silver lining and just being able to find some community and knowing some places I can go and finding some great allies that I do have. And that is what has changed my trajectory out here. Will I be out here for 8 to 10 years? No. I'm going to be packing myself with you, Ovi, and probably Erika and Marcus. If you still are here, I wish you all the best, brother. But I can't do that no more. I'm not going to do that because they'll know this is not for me and this ain't the place. But when I finish my assignment, I'll be grateful for that, and I'm just going to keep it moving. But I'll understand and I'll come and visit, but it's just not a place that I want to spend. It's the anxiety, as you were saying, Ovi, and you don't even know that you have it. You don't even know that you are dealing with so many things until you sit down and you're away and you with your folks, your peoples, and you in the culture. I'm very social and I love soul food, and it's just, you can't even find that. I have to create that, you know. And I'm thankful for that, but I'm also ready for something new.
I understand completely. So I want to remind our audience of something. We need you to ask questions in order for this event to be successful. I know this is tough to hear. I know that it's challenging you, and I know that it is touching on parts of you that love Oregon, that love Bend. We are not challenging your love of the state, your love for Bend. We are just simply sharing our experiences. And also, we are not angry. So please don't think that we are angry Black people here to bash Oregon. That's not what this is about. We are creating awareness because each of us on this screen, we are successful Black people in Oregon. So Oregon didn't break us, but we can share what our experience has been living here. So I want to remind you that our conversation tonight will be assisted with participation of our audience, and we'll do that via Mentimeter, as we do for all of our virtual events. You can submit questions to us via the Menti app, found either by going to www.menti.com and entering the code that has been on the screen, or you can download through your app store. Submit your questions. We are here to be open, transparent, and vulnerable. We will answer your question. You might not like our answer, but we will answer your questions. So I want to start by asking a question that came from the audience. What are some things that white people do to make things worse? Anybody can answer.
Can I go first, please?
Sure.
Thank you, Ovi. I wanted to make sure, out of respect, you get you go first. And by the way, I'm sorry your daughter had to go through that. I really, really do, because I was actually at that game and I reffed that game, and she looked beautiful, by the way. And I was in the locker room, but I did see him come out and she looked really, really beautiful. Just want to let you know. Okay. For me, what white people do wrong, honestly, for me, is say they want to be involved, but don't sacrifice and understand the sacrifice we have made to get to that point. And they will say they want to be involved, and then you say, okay, I need you to make a statement on that. I need you to show some resources. I need you to contribute in other ways and tell other people. I need you to do this. But then you get a little pushback, or all of a sudden they get ghost, and you're going, what happened? I thought you were committed to this. I thought you said you were on my side with this. That's the one thing that really, really irritates the crap out of me. Because if you say you really down for diversity and trying to make sure that we have inclusion and have a seat at the table, so forth and so on, hey, I'm Nat Turner to the end. If you're ready to do this, let's go. But if you're not ready to do that, do me a favor, step to the side and let me do this. Because I got some other stuff to worry about. So that passion's always in me, but it's burning lightly now. Like you guys said, I had the conversation with my wife. I was like, hey, we're at year 7. No, and I've never been this tired. I've always fought for students, but it's never been this hard. So do me a favor, what I hate about white people does, do me a favor, if you're really about this, be really about it. And don't and hold people accountable. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to tell some of these people no, or they're doing it wrong, or the system isn't working. It's okay to do that. It's okay to check your friends on behalf of other people. It's okay. It's okay to tell them, hey, you know what, you're wrong, and you've been doing this wrong. It's not a problem with that. Please do it, because guess what? You'll benefit from it. It's going to hurt a little bit, yeah, because you stepped out on that limb, but guess what? You're still going to stand up again because you got people around who support you. You notice, regardless of what happens, Black people, we always are willing to sometimes look the other way on certain things or stand up again and realize that even though the fight in their mind, they've won. No, we're still going to keep battling. So please, if you're really about this, please be about it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, Marcus. I totally agree with you. Lip service is not helpful. We need some action. The same way you write checks to the Humane Society, organizations like mine, like Marcus's and others can use your support too. We are also doing good things. And so lip service is not helpful. Anybody else want to comment on a way of what white people do to make things worse?
You know, what is not helpful is, and I have been graced with people who don't do this to me direct. So the people that have done this to me are not the people that have shown up as my people here, right? Because we have created spaces between me and myself and those people that we have genuine conversations, right? So I'm talking about some other people. Don't undermine my experience by telling me, but I have Black friends, or I don't see color, or I got friends that got Black kids. Because that's not helpful. And your Black friend's not me. And maybe you have Black friends that like to ski. I don't like to ski. Maybe you have Black friends that like the snow. I don't like the snow. So we're not all the same. We're not all the same. We don't all think the same. I have encountered people here that think because they know another Black woman that they know me, and you don't. Me and Erika might not like the same things. We may not feel the same way. You know, it's for me, and that's not just about being Black, that's just about being human, right? Just because you have two white men don't mean they like the same things. And so why should that be the same for Black people? Why should it be that just because we look the same? No, we don't look the same. Just because we have the same skin color, right? Because it's not the same, we don't all look the same. That we have to be the same person, or we have to be one person. And so, I have been in situations before where whatever the experience is, was then almost immediately undermined by, well, we did that when I was a kid, and I know you've experienced, some of that too, Erika, like, well, those microaggressions aren't real, or that they didn't mean that. I mean, that's what they said, but that's not what they meant. And the reality is you can't determine somebody's intention any more than you expect me to. So you want to be able to say that's not what they meant, but you want me to brush off the fact that that might be exactly what they meant. That's probably for me one of the things that has grinded my gears a little bit, because one of the things you said earlier, like we don't get the luxury of not making our experiences make us bitter. It doesn't matter what I have encountered here in Oregon. If I'm going to be successful, if I'm going to continue to make waves, continue to make an impact, then it means that I have to treat each experience like a new experience. No matter how many times I've gone into a restaurant and been treated like crap, the next restaurant I go into, I can't walk into the restaurant expecting to be treated like crap, right? Because then I become no better than the people that I'm trying to be different from. And so I have to treat each restaurant like it's brand new. And I have to treat each experience like it's a brand new experience until they show me that it's the same experience. We don't get the luxury of allowing our experiences to make us bitter.
Oh, I love that. We don't have that luxury. And where we do feel comfortable going in Oregon, if we have a bad experience there, we might have to give it a second shot, right? First of all, it's not that many places to go. And secondly, if we want to have some sort of life here, we have to give it another shot. Maybe they didn't mean it that way. We have to have hope constantly. We have to have hope. I will say too, for me, what is hard for me is when I open my heart to people and my trust is broken. That's for anybody of any color. But if I trust you as my friend and I can't count on you when I need you, that hurts me in a way that I can't describe. And it makes it challenging to welcome other people into your life, which becomes even more isolating when you are a super minority in a place. So what I can say is if you offer your support, your friendship, your kindness to a person, be genuine about that. Don't befriend just because they're a person of color and you want to make yourself feel good. Do it because that you want that person in your life genuinely. So Ov, we have a question for you from the audience. If you could give one piece of advice to people who don't want you to leave to be the change we need, what would make you stay?
So, okay. So that's a difficult question to answer. Because I think the saying is like, it's never too late, but that is not true. There are some things that it is too late for. And I think if that had been the attitude and the question 3 months ago, 6 months ago, before I had all I could take, I probably wouldn't leave. At this point, there is very little. And I'm willing to visit. I'm willing to keep doing the work. I'm willing to come out here for a week and go home, right? There's one thing that I want to share that was big for me in the beginning. So, I told you earlier, I told everybody early on that, I did the research before I moved out here. So I didn't just move out here blind, right? I knew that there was 0.4% or half of a person, right, that was Black. I equated that, and it was something Terrance said earlier, made me think about it or made me remember. So I have been the minority before, right? So I've been in a boardroom where I was the only woman, right? I've been in the boardroom where I was the only Black person, or in a room where I was the only Black woman. But in those scenarios, you leave that room and you go have lunch with your girlfriend who looks like you, or she's just a woman. She doesn't have to be Black, right? But you leave and you go have dinner with your girlfriend, or, you go have a glass of wine, or you just go back to your office and your office is sprinkled with people that look like you. So when I decided to come out here, that is what I thought I was walking into, right? An experience where, okay, sure, there aren't a lot of Black people there, but there will be enough that I can have a community. This is more like being in a community where you're the only gender, right? Where you're like, I'm a woman and I live in an entire community full of men, which means nobody understands what it's like to have a menstrual cycle. Nobody understands what it's like to wear high heels or cares. Nobody cares about me wanting to get my nails done, or not having anybody that can do my hair, or going to Target and not being able to find the shampoo I need because they don't sell that, right? I needed some oil the other day. There's no oil. Somebody send me some from North Carolina, please, because there's no oil, right? There is other things, but there is no oil. So those are the things that it feels like living here is like, and then when I do go to Target or I do go to Safeway and I see another person of color, we're like the Spider-Man meme. They looking at me, I'm looking at them. It's like, oh my goodness, is that a real person? What should I talk to him? Can I touch it? Hey, and then you don't want to be weird, right? Because that's weird. And so you just going back to your little cookie, you get your little stuff, you going back home. So I don't know, I remember when I first moved here, I called my mama and I was like, I can't find a collard green nowhere, right? Like Terrance is like, where are they? And I have since found some, right? But, I think if someone had asked me that question and been intentional about making changes before it was too late, I would have a different answer. But now I want to go to the grocery store. I want to need something at 8:00 and not have to stop and think that I ain't going to the grocery store. It's dark outside. I don't want to order DoorDash for dinner. I don't want to drive by a place with outdoor seating and fire pits that looks amazing and have the thought in my mind that, oh, well, I'm not going there because all those people are white and there's alcohol. And a month after I moved here, a white guy shot a Black guy. I'm gonna probably just keep on driving and going home. I live in a townhouse and my neighbor is like, we never see you, right? Because you don't see me. I park in my garage, I leave, I go to work, I come home, I park in my garage. And the reality is that's not the life I want. Doesn't matter the work I'm doing or how much I'm getting paid, or the amazing friendships I have here. That's not the life I want to live.
I understand. That's my life too, except I do Instacart, DoorDash, and just keep driving on by the fire pits because they make my hair smell bad and I don't like that. So I understand. So for Terrance and Marcus, especially because you work in areas that support students, this question comes from the president of an academic club. Their question is, how can I help make campus more welcoming for students of color? How can I support their success and help create a sense of belonging?
Well, I mean, I guess it would depend upon the institution too. But one thing I would say is like, if you go to those students of color events, wherever those students hang out, don't just try to take up the space and trying to do everything. Like, get to know people. Like, we're human. Like, it's get to know somebody for who they are. Most of the time we don't really have a problem, especially with student organizations here. If there's white students or non-Black students, particularly white students when it comes to that, because usually other people of color typically can blend and gel well. But for white students in particular, like they are welcome to come to spaces. I think it's just when you're trying to do too much in that space, if you're trying to take over conversation, if you want to do everything, kind of get a feel of the group, of the people, the vibe in the room, ask, questions, offer, if you are good at a subject, let's just say you like the tutor and you're good at math or something like, that's a way to start a conversation, right? If you organization wise, if you're a president of an organization, try to collaborate with another student organization and do an event together, meet with that president, that executive board, and see what it is that y'all can work out together. When I was an undergrad, we would always work with different organizations, especially with the frat. We would work with some of the white fraternities. They would have a time to come over there and we would have the white fraternities would come and we would do events and stuff together. But I would think, just be willing to ask questions and be willing to support and lending a hand, but not trying to take over the conversation, take over the space.
I have something to contribute about that, taking up the space. Every day on my social media, I have been posting Black history facts. They have been either historical or current with people I know, sharing about different things. And I had someone correct me about a post, a white person, on social media. And I thought, gosh, I can't even have this space on my own Facebook page to post. If you know me and it's, you think it's wrong information, text me and tell me. Don't correct me on social media and I'm Black. Like, let me have this day during Black History Month to celebrate who I want to celebrate that is Black. Maybe I didn't celebrate the person you wanted me to celebrate, but let me have this space. That's an example of taking up space that is not yours to take up. Let a person be who they are. Let us have space, or we'll keep fighting for that space. Sorry. So go ahead, Marcus.
Never be sorry. Never be sorry. Like I said, hey, it's you. You get to be you. The thing for me is the president of the organization, do me a favor, just don't wear the suit and tie. Put on the jeans, put on some sweats, do something. Go hang out in the multicultural center. Go just listen. Just go sit and hear the conversations, because you can hear and they'll tell you their experiences, what they're going through. And you'll figure out what some of the struggles some of those minority students are going through, or underserved students or marginalized students are going through. Listen, you will hear their stories and you will see how so similar that many of them are to yours. Some of them, not all, but many. Also, do me a favor, take the time to do research too. Visit other schools, right? Do some cross collabos, do some other things that is going to enhance what you have. Also, be willing to bring other people in who are not from that area to come in and talk about things too, but also fill them in on what's going on at your schools. Let the students be the voice to tell them what's going on, right? So yeah, be nimble. Like, go back to your college days. If you love intertwining with other people when you were in school, do the same thing you used to do when you were younger. I'm always weird out how kids can start at kindergarten intermingling and not being mean to one another, but all of a sudden they separate or something changes in their attitudes. Don't stop doing that. Be inquisitive. What happened to that, right? I think, we forgot how to be, inquisitive and innovative. We so busy on our phones and all this other stuff. We forget that, hey, we have brains, utilize them. And like I said, we need companionship and relationships, and come on, let's go build it. and stop thinking that, oh, if I go sit in the multicultural center, they think I'm here for a reason. No, just go be a homie if that's what you want to say. Just go hang out. Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you. So here's an interesting question. Is there a difference between the racism you all have experienced in Oregon versus that of Southern states?
Absolutely. So I can only speak for North Carolina, right? Because that's where I live. Oh, and Terrance, I know Jason and Joshua, we went to Central together. So equal pride. Anyway, right. So there's that. So in North Carolina, right, there's definitely racism. There are definitely those that fly their Confederate flags. There are definitely those that do not like you because your skin is Black or brown or just not white. There is this unspoken respect, though, that's like, this is where I stand and that is where you stand. It's almost like, if you think of a two-lane, like a two-lane highway with the double lines in the middle, you stay on your side, I stay on my side. I am not smiling in your face. I am not trying to make you think I'm on your side. I am not faking it like we really friends and I'm really supporting you. I'm not your friend. I'm not supporting you. I don't like you, right? I'm not gonna like you. We probably didn't vote for this. Ain't no problem. We didn't vote for the same person, right? If given the opportunity, I'm not gonna have your back, right? But there is this, the yellow lines kind of represent this mutual respect that exists, that I'm not coming over there and you're not coming over here. Out here, though, the racism that we have experienced has been considerably more blatant. There is this feeling like I can disrespect you and there will be no consequence, right? You just take it on the chin and keep it moving. Which has put me on the defense because there have been opportunities where I wanted to flip the whole table over, right? I go in a nail salon and you look me in my face, look me and my daughter in my face and tell me you're not gonna service me. I wanna flip the whole salon over. You're not gonna service me, well, you're not gonna service nobody else, right? Okay, that's fine. We just gonna shut the whole thing down. The reality is, you have to hold your head up, and you just turn around and you just walk out like it doesn't matter, right? It's fine. So the racism here is definitely more blatant, has been for me. I can only speak for me, has definitely been more blatant. I've been Black all my life. Yep, my whole life. I ain't never been nothing else. I did not get called the N-word. My daughter did not get called the N-word until we were in Central Oregon. There is also this underlying, like there's undertone that's like, maybe I don't like you, but I'm also might be gonna act like Marcus was saying earlier, I might be gonna act like I'm gonna be on your team, but I'm not really. So it's just, it kind of hits you from every angle, where in North Carolina, you just know where people stand. You just know where they stand. I remember growing up, we did not live far from, I think, a house that was like, definitely flew Confederate flags. And I'm pretty sure they were members of the Ku Klux Klan, but like, they didn't bother us. We didn't bother them, right? That does not exist in Central Oregon. That has not existed for me, I will say here, is that it is considerably more blatant and considerably more disrespectful, with minimal expectation of any type of recourse as a result. And the question for me has been, if I call it out, if I say something, am I gonna be the one that goes to jail, right? Or am I gonna be the one on somebody's t-shirt? And the reality is, I'm trying to get back home to my mama and my kids. I don't have time for that. So I just come home and come in my garage and go about my business.
Right. I think there are two elements. The one that you just pointed out, Ovi, which is there's the blatant racism, and then there's that Northwest nice, right? I'm going to smile in your face, but behind your back, I really don't like you. And I'm going to do everything I can to undermine you. And I'm going to talk down to you. I'm not going to listen to your ideas because who do you think you are with your Black self, right? They won't say that, but that's how they act and treat you. It's more, that Northwest nice is more covert than it is overt, right? I'm from Alabama. I'm in Alabama right now. Like you, never call the N word in Alabama, never happened to my children, but we moved to Central Oregon. I experienced it. My son experienced it. So also one thing, I was at the University of Alabama before coming out to OSU-Cascades, and my colleagues at Alabama would say, oh, you're moving out to that blue state, to that liberal Mecca, because the perception in the South is that Oregon is Portland. All of Oregon is not Portland. And the perception in Oregon is that the South is like it was during the Civil Rights Movement. We have evolved. We are not still fighting that battle in the South. People here in the South are more exposed to people of color, so they know not to cross that double line, or there are consequences and repercussions because there are more of us. And if you say it to one of us, then we will go get others of us and come back and address it. Not necessarily in a violent way, but it will be addressed. And people know that, so they don't cross the line. But here, it is very different. And if we cross that line, if we are called whatever we are called, if we are disrespected and we call it out, then we become angry, we become volatile, we become all these negative adjectives. Whereas if someone else stood up for themselves in the same way, they're brave, they're courageous. So that's the difference. I think we all need to work on our perception, visit these places before you automatically assume that, Confederate flags are flying everywhere. People that do that, they live in their little corners of the world in cities like Birmingham, Alabama, where Black people outnumber white people. So we need to visit these places and really educate ourselves on what places are like before we make assumptions. Goes both ways.
And Erika, I love that. Thank you for saying what I wanted to say, because you know how many times I'm in these meetings and I'm walking out and I'm walking back by myself and I know what's going on in the world. I miss being able to pick up the phone, like you said, and be like, all right, who's rolling? And all right, let's go, here we go. And it was easy. Now it's harder because I still am that person inside, because I know I'm like anyone else. I'm in a corner, I'm coming out of that corner. But at the same time, too, it's unfortunate that I have it to a certain extent with my brothers. Don't get me wrong, my father's group brothers, I appreciate them, 100%. Because they do a great job of really backing me and showing up and doing various things to support that, make I get to places. And that's the part I miss. But the thing for me and Ovi, I'm probably about 10 years older than you. I grew up in a different North Carolina. So it was a little bit more like some of the stuff we talked about, what's going on in Oregon. We had to fight every day at school because our schools had been shut down. The Black schools got closed in our neighborhood, and none of those Black teachers were able to transfer to our high school, right? And that was only, when you think about it, that was in the 80s. So you got to understand, walking into those schools, we had to fight every single day just to get to class, and teachers would fail us on purpose, and you get all those different things, and we did get called the N-word a lot more, right? And you know how we say it. Even though I'm from Charlotte, I'm about 20 miles outside of Charlotte. You know how we do it. So it's one of those things, those small towns were similar to like the Redmonds and the Bends and the Sisters and the world. So they were there and they did that. So there were high schools and schools we couldn't go to without putting our helmets on and not getting off the bus, being fully dressed, and going to play basketball games or football games and, doing all those sports. So it was just a little different. Don't get me wrong, the police were still the police the way they were, a lot of places. And I tell you, the thing about it for me is that I will never let it get me down. because regardless of how they feel or what they think or don't know, it's never going to get me down, because I know who I am. I'm a proud Black man who will never let anyone deter me from making sure that I create the necessary pathways for anyone. So it doesn't bother me, because guess what? I know who I am, and they will never take that away from me.
Thanks, Marcus. Another question along the same lines. How can we expect to educate white people when their ignorance has existed for generations? The ignorance exists in all states, not just in Oregon. So Terrance, do you want to give that one some thought?
I was gonna say something else, but let me rephrase. First of all, it's not our job to educate white people. It's not our job to do that, because 9 times out of 10, people know what is going on. They see it, they are not oblivious to it. They choose not to do anything or act anything until it happens to your money, right? That is money and power is the root of that. And if you're true to it, to yourself, then you will be willing to learn. You will be willing to be silent and listen, as Marcus was saying earlier. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You should be listening 2 times as much as you speak. And to speak on somebody else's truth that you never lived, and educate somebody on something that you've never experienced, should tell you that you should be humble enough to listen, and that's the start of being an ally. I don't think it's not our place to educate, but we do, because we're going to continue to be that. We're going to continue to live. We're going to continue to relish in our Blackness, and let folks know about our histories and our existence. As they want to take it out of our schools, we're going to let you know about your grandfathers and your forefathers and the things that they did. So, and you're going to have to accept that. I think the one thing is white folks don't want to accept the truth, or they are still having to deal with the burden of what their ancestors had did for centuries, and then carrying that, because some of them still perpetuate it each day. If you're looking at the houses that you have gained, that generational wealth that has continuously been passed down for you, that's still perpetuating the narrative, right? If you're thinking of, when we look at reparations and what the purpose of reparations is, we see everybody else getting reparations except for Black people. That should remind you of that. When we have to continuously talk about our experience, and first of all, having Black bodies that are still on the ground, and yet you say Black Lives Matter, but do they really matter to you? Are you really doing anything to help support a Black person, whether if they're being slain on the ground or working with you on your job or having some type of crisis within the healthcare system, within the criminal justice system, within the housing market, within all these different systems that are set up to keep us from being successful, that have been tried to. So you have the education right there. You have the knowledge. It's now, what is the action that you're going to do about it? Now that you know about it, even after this conversation, is it just going to be a discussion that you listen and you checked off your box for Black History Month, or going to a presentation of Black people, hearing them talk about their stories and experiences, or are you going to actually do something about it and put forth the effort and educate yourself? There's plenty of Black novelists and Black writers out here that have information that tell you about the histories of that. You hear it, you can watch the cinema every day, whether it be Rosewood, whether it be Black Wall Street, whether it be anything that you can read and learn about. And giving your money to something, if that's what helps you, but doing something. I do DEI trainings to help people talk about that, because that comes white fragility, right? And centering in whiteness. Everything is centering in whiteness is really, when you're looking at the scope of this country and how it was built and how we were utilized in that, and how everything that you see was incorporated with Blackness. It doesn't matter what it is. We have been in the fabrication of this country since it existed. And to deny that is still centering in whiteness. It's still decentering the fact that you don't want to educate and do any action towards helping the narrative of Black and brown people in this nation. So until you realize that and you change your perception and you change your imagery of that, then you'll continue to sit here and deny the fact that you are a racist because you don't like to hear the word racist, because racist turns to the fact of what happened in your past and it's still in your present future. And I'm not going to apologize to anybody for that because it exists and people know that. And you have to acknowledge that fact and acknowledge that truth and figure out how you're going to change that narrative for yourself. And there are some allies out there who get that, and they have always been on the front line. They've been in our HBCUs and help educating people. They've been in the NAACP. They've been in all these places, and they have changed it, but it's not enough, right? There's more that you can do. So I say pick up a book and keep reading.
Right, thank you. Terrance had me clutch my pearls when he said racist. So I want to be clear that he did not call every white person a racist, okay? Because that can be the narrative when you hear that word. And I want to be clear that he did not call every white person a racist. He is calling racists racist. Okay, I want to be very clear about that. Also, I want to say, to this last part of the question, the ignorance exists in all states, not just in Oregon. Very true. But we live in Oregon right now. We're talking about Oregon. And Oregon is the only state in the union that had Black exclusion laws. So Oregon is the only state that would not allow Black slaves to settle here. If we did, then we were beaten in public on a routine schedule. 100 Black people endured that in order to stay here. So Oregon is just a little bit different. Ovi, you said you have a question for Terrance.
I do. So I agree with what you said. So my question is not to challenge the core of what you were saying. Let me be clear about that. But so I'm going to tell you a statement and then I'm going to ask the question. So since I decided I was leaving Central Oregon, right, I have been very clear with my employer about why. And not just when I say my employer, I mean multiple people in the organization. I was clear about my decision. I am not leaving because of the work. I'm not leaving. Everybody here knows I hate the cold, right? So like the cold weather was a topic of many, many meetings, almost every meeting for a very long time. So I'm like, I'm not leaving because of that. I'm leaving because I'm over the racism and discrimination and disrespect, right? Since I have made that clear, I have spent weeks having multiple hours of conversations about race, sometimes 2 and 3 hours of conversation a day, right? I have, in a lot of ways, I understand I have become a safe space, like I said before, for people to have these conversations. So my question for you is, where is the fine line between it's not our job to educate and let me show you how to treat me, right? So like when you get into a relationship, right? So man and a woman or man and a man or whatever the relationship is that people want to be in, right? People will tell you, you teach people how you want to be treated. So where is the fine line between, well, it's not my job to educate you on being Black. However, I am going to use this space to teach you how to treat me.
Good question, Ovi. For me, and I say that because some people feel like it's a Black person's obligation to tell them how to treat or how to learn about Black people, all of it, and they don't want to give any try. They just want you to do it for them because they don't want to give the effort. For me, I educate people every day. I teach a course on it, and there are really willful white and other folks of color that truly want to do that. And it's the point that I definitely want you to know, because even as I've lived here, I've learned about the histories of Oregon and the origins and how, although we didn't have slavery here, we still didn't want Black people here. And the exclusion laws show that even into the 20th century, almost in the 21st century. I believe in 2000, there was stuff that was still on there. So there are people who are, honestly, I've learned that don't know that. And for me, and I genuinely see that, I'm going to tell you as much as I can to give you the education, because I don't want you to be walking around here with the ignorance of not knowing what is really about your state that you didn't learn in your school systems. They didn't teach you that. You know, I talk with college students every day, and they truly want to know, you know, because I feel that. So I say that, yeah, there is that part. And even in the DEI training, I've worked with school systems in Lebanon, and I've worked with schools in the Portland area where I've had to talk with them and explain things to them. And it's really just going all the way back and given the timeline of history and even every part of that. So yes, I think there is the line, but I think where it gets drawn is when you don't give the effort, or when you expect me to be your compass and you still continue to show the same behavior even after I've given up pieces of me to tell you about things that are related to me and my family and my friends or my culture. And yet you're still disrespectful and not even want to accept that or educate yourself about that or do anything that is forthright to the culture. Go, and I'm not ready to sit there and do that for you. That's not my goal. And it to also make you look good, right? If you are in a position and you expect me to do everything, regardless if it's a part of my PD or not, and you are not even trying or willing to have a conversation or speak up on the fact of it, then that shows that you are truly not really worried or concerned about Blackness at all. You just needed it because, like I said before, to check off a box. And I'm not here to check off your boxes. And I won't be that person for you. And I think and sincerely, and it will take, and I've seen this before, it will take other white allies to talk to their friends or people, because as I said in these trainings, sometimes it's the people that's right next to you that's doing this very same thing, and they're the ones smiling in your face and telling you to thank your friends, and, oh, we got this. But when you tell me, oh, when it's a situation about a Black person, like, I have Black friends, or I have a Black family member, I have this. That's when you have to learn, like, whoop, 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 that's an alert that is something is not right here. Something's off about this individual, this situation. And there may be maybe that's an intervention where you as the ally, like, hey, I need you to check the whiteness that you just perpetuated right now. I need to have this conversation with you as a peer, as a friend, because we can't be expected to do everything. Even as that's the whole purpose of that. When we educate, even after this, talking to you, that is the end. The hope is that you go and talk to somebody, talk to a friend. I've had students to tell me, like, I have people in my family that don't like Black folks, or they have said things that are cruel, and I just don't know what to do. And I have to be honest. I was like, well, there's a tough conversation that you're going to have. You now know. You have learned by sitting in here. You have learned by reading and learning and hearing different quotes and seeing different movements that have happened to help you with that conversation. Is it going to be easy for you? No. But I think for you to be empowered to do it is what I'm here to help you to be, right? I'm here not only just to know the history, but to be empowered to make a change, to make you feel like you can do that, because you can. And you just have to be willing and vulnerable and ready to do so.
Thank you. So we have a few more questions, and what we need to do to be able to get to the rest of them is get our answers down to maybe like a minute and a half, okay? Because I want to make sure that we give the audience what they want, what they want to hear, what they're asking, because I think these are some pretty important questions. So one is, do you think a cultural or a Black community center would be helpful for the Central Oregon Black community? Marcus, I think that's a good one for you with your work with the Fathers Group.
Really? Come on. You give me a building and a place I can house and be able to celebrate and do everything I want to do. Hey, who's the funder? Let's go. Like, what are we waiting on? Multicultural centers we've been asking for years. That is a hard thing. Yeah, come on, let's go. Yeah, but make sure the intention is there to say, hey, here's what it's for. But at the same time, we want everybody to come be a part of it. It's not just for us, it's us to have a place we always can go feel comfortable, but at the same time too, hey, we can build a unique hours, yeah, but other people need to come and visit too, because remember, the African diaspora, we're not a monolith as people. Hello, okay, come on. Think about it for a second. This is how we all get along and do the things we need to do. And really quick to go back to Ovi's question. And Ovi, here's the thing I would say to you when it comes about educating other people on something like that. Here's the deal. A no to someone else is always a yes to yourself. Okay, remember that. All right. So you ain't got to educate those people on that. And I always like to use this little acronym called NICE. I notice, inquire, I center myself, and I establish my expectations of what I want. So back to the center about having a Black Culture Center. It's a no-brainer.
Thank you. What does co-liberation look like in Oregon? And how do we get there? I don't want to tackle that one.
Yes, I do. I will. I'll tackle it. I got you. Here's how it looks. You got to look in the mirror and tell the truth of what you know about what's going on in this world. Be truthful about it, and then go from there. The Germans did it. They told the truth. They educate people on what happened. I don't have to mention it. You already know what I'm talking about. They did the job. They did the due diligence. Do the same thing. Give us the reparations. Hey, you just gave everybody money for the stimulus. What, you can't give us our reparations? So what that looks like is looking in the mirror, figuring it out, hey, realizing, hey, we messed up. How can we make it better? And be intentional about it and stop.
Mm-hmm.
Stop after that and keep going and then start working. That's what collaboration looks like. And then, like I said in the beginning, tell people no who don't want to be a part of it. You got to be able to just do that.
Right. You know, I am an educator. So anyone that comes to me wanting education, I provide it. If I can, if I'm available, and for a fee. My services aren't free. And to continually, like you have been doing, Ovi, just providing your emotional labor for free is taxing. And eventually, what you're experiencing, you get tired. You can only say the same thing for so long without seeing a behavioral shift before you get tired. So I do provide that education, but I had to learn along the way that my time, my knowledge, my experiences are valuable. And if you want that, you have to pay for it. Another question is, I don't want to see people of color leave. Instead, I want to see more people of color move to Central and Eastern Oregon. What can be done? Terrance, I see you rubbing your head about Eastern.
I'll say this quick. You know, this is an unwritten but true statistic that most Black people that move to Oregon are here 2 years or less, the average. And I've seen it. And not to call Ovietta, but this is a prime example that you're seeing right here. Because of the support, the lack of cultural support and people, like it's hard. So, you know, I think the more open that you are and having opportunities and things to support Black folks is going to be a start. Ben has a better opportunity in doing that. I don't know about Eastern Oregon as much. I can't speak to that. I think it is an opportunity. I mean, the things that Erika is doing is great, and the work there, you know, and we came to see her, you know, so we'd be willing to travel. I think if you give the people opportunity for growth, and the community shows that, you know, and there are more people that be willing to move in there, and there are opportunities there for people to grow and have families and feel like they can be safe, then there's an opportunity that can happen. It's happened in other parts of Oregon. I think it can happen in Bend too.
Right. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Eric, I didn't mean to interrupt you. One of the things that I have started to say just over the last week or two that I think applies to this particular question is like, people spend so much time planning to be better that they forget to actually just be better. Just be better. Just show up, right? I mean, we could give you the blueprint. I can tell you, here's the syllabus, right? For you higher education folks, study that this is what the test is going to be on. Here's the answers to the questions. But like, if you don't read it, if you don't study, and if you don't take the test, it doesn't matter what I say. So like all of these concepts around how can we make things better, you just show up. You just start being better. And it's not about just being better to Black people, just be better people. So then when Black people show up, you've already been practicing being better. You just continue to be better. Not, I'm waiting for an opportunity to be better to a person of color, right? Because then it's a big stretch. It's not as big of a stretch if you have just been practicing how to be better. Just show up. That's it. Just show up.
I very much agree. How do you treat our houseless neighbors? How do you treat our socioeconomically challenged neighbors? How do you treat people that are different from you in any way, right? Whether they disagree with you politically or, it doesn't always have to be about race. It doesn't have to be about skin color. So it's easy to be better in Oregon. It's easy to be a better person in Central Oregon when you think about how you're treating people that are different from you in any way, not just based on skin color. So here's another one. I organized a book club of white women focused on being anti-racist. It was a pretty miserable fail. There was almost a competition that developed on who was the best anti-racist. Seriously? Any advice is what this person wrote. So I will say this, because I've experienced my own little who can get close to Erika the fastest. I want to be the good white person, or to be there and show up. It's not a competition. Please don't use me as your guinea pig, and there's no award that's given for being a good human. If you believe in God, that reward is in heaven with your crown, right? But be a good person. To me, that shouldn't be a race. It shouldn't be a test. It should just be who we all are. Someone asked me last week, how are Black people different in that you keep trying every day? You keep living in this country where, you might step outside and have an encounter and die. That is reality for us. And we've seen it happen in downtown Bend. A young man had an encounter and he died. It can happen. It happens almost every day in this country and around the world too, not just the people of color. We see what's happening in the Ukraine. People are attacking people and it's real life. And so it shouldn't be hard to just simply, as I always say, love your neighbor. Be genuine in that effort. It's not a competition. It's not a race. This is more of a marathon, not a sprint. And if you compete with each other on who can be the best, like we tend to do in America in this individualistic society, there's not a best when it comes to being a good human. Does anyone else have any thoughts or advice for that audience member? Okay. Ooh, this is a great question. What do we do for self-care? Other than drink, what do we do for self-care?
Erika, what do I do for self-care? What do you
go home.
That's it.
You go home.
So I will share, probably this might be overshare. So part of the reason I took the job opportunity, right, was because financially it was an amazing opportunity, just to be honest. I have spent all of the amazing opportunity staying sane because I go to North Carolina no less than once a month. Because that is where my safe space is. And, you know, I talk about like people being better. My friend group, my people at home, like we look like the United Colors of Benetton. Like they're not all Black people. They're white people, they're Asian people, they're gay people and straight people. Like those are my people. So for me, the ability to recharge is being able to go around my people. Now, when I'm home, self-care looks like getting my nails done, getting my hair done, getting a massage, in addition to being around my people. But none of those things are things that I have access to here. There isn't anybody to do my hair. There isn't anybody that'll do my nails, right? I'm a little nervous about getting a massage. Like I don't have the luxury of walking into a space and just knowing I'm going to get good service. Maybe I get service, but is it going to be good service? Are they going to overcharge me? Right? Are they going to, like, if I get a hot stone massage, are they going to warm the stones up way too hot and burn me? I mean, like, these are things that you think about that I don't think about at home. I don't need a 3-week out appointment to get my nails done. I get off the plane and I walk into the salon. So for me, self-care is going home. And I started by asking Erika, because she spent a lot of time getting on me. She's like, you're never going to acclimate if you keep going home. And I'm like, well, I'm going to die if I don't. So these are the two options that we have. We can go home and get some self-care, and I can come back rejuvenated and able to be here and stand in the storm, or I'm just not going to make it. I'm just not going to make it. So that's what it looks like for me.
For me, I typically, besides exercise, I am always traveling, especially in the wintertime. You know, seasonal depression is real out here, and I did not know that until I moved here. And it is really hard between December and November and April, really. So I am, if I'm not in California, down in LA or Oakland seeing my nephew or my cousin, or in Vegas seeing my cousin, then I'm back in the A with my friends or my high school friends. We travel, take an international trip every year. So we going out the country. And I'm living my best life. I'm just going to do that because I have to stay sane. Like I have to figure out ways to do that and keep me encouraged. Otherwise, I don't know what I would do, to be quite honest, or just eating. You know, I can't really get no good food sometimes here, unless I find a little spot. I found a little soul food spot or something like that. So I got a little spots I'll go to. I'll go have a happy hour. I'm very social. So I just like to do things that I'm out and about. So I'll find scenes and stuff that I can hit up. I'll travel to Seattle. That's what I do to keep it kosher.
So Terrance, the next time I'm in Corvallis and I text you, remember you said you're very social.
Listen, I know, I own that. I am sorry. You called me in the wrong week, and you got to come to Salem. That's really where this Salem, and then I'll get everybody else to come to Salem. Okay. I can do that.
Okay.
Or come to Sunday. I got something going on Sunday in Portland. If you
I'm in Alabama, right?
Oh, that's right. You did say.
So self-care. I'm at home. And when I come home, I need my mom sometimes. Because when it seems like the world is against me, my mom will tell me everybody is wrong and I'm right and I'm wonderful and I'm great. And that's what I need at this point in my life. People don't realize some of the things that they do and say and the toll that it takes on another human being. But one thing I know for certain is that God will not allow any man to shut a door that he opened for me. So right now I am recharging, I am rejuvenating. When I close my laptop today, that's it until I come back to be in next week. And we need that time, you know, and I found today, like, it's hard for people to respect those boundaries. because I'm one that will always respond. And I text Ovi today and I was like, I'm supposed to be on vacation. And she was like, you just got to stop responding. But I feel that pressure too. Like when my colleagues go on vacation, they're out in the woods somewhere, you can't reach them, right? But for me, if I'm accessible, I'm going to respond. And it's that pressure of feeling like I have to be perfect. If I'm not the perfect employee, if I'm not the perfect consultant, if I am not the perfect faculty senate president, then how will they ever choose someone else that looks like me? Which is added stress and added pressure.
And for me, and if everyone's listening, you notice a common thing for us to rejuvenate. But here's the cool part. You notice we're all professional Black people. We have residual income to go do what we want to do. Hey, what does that tell you? Is that brilliance or what? Guess what? I do the same thing. I got to go see my peeps. I got to go hang out. I got to find some beach somewhere. I got to get away from here. I got to shut everything down. That's the only way. And I always got to take my kids with me because that's my joy, right? So they got to go. Or I invite moms. Hey, mom, we going here. Let's go. Because you need that. You need that unconditional. My mom loves when she sees me now because she just loves twisting my hair and you know how good that feels. Your mom, you're sitting down and my mom just really moisturizing my hair and just talking to me. Takes me back to when I was a little kid. So we're trying to go back to the place that gives us that energy to continue to keep pushing forward because we know that's that foundation. And that's why we do that. But guess what? They taught us all how to be able to come home, right? Because we know there's going to be a safe space for us. And that's phenomenal. And, I have my friends here, but, that's great and all, but I got to bounce. I got to get out. I got to go see other things because I only get one of these lives. So I'm going to cherish every moment I can, right? I can't wait to take my kids to different places again this spring and this summer and this fall. It's like, oh my God, some of the places I'm going, oh my God. Anyway, but yeah, I just can't wait.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Before we close out, I want to honor, and a question was, someone put this in the questions too. Marcus, you are doing great work in Central Oregon, and oftentimes I don't think you get the credit you deserve. Terrance has mentioned the work that he does with the trainings and DEI work. Everybody knows what I do. But can you speak to what the Fathers Group does in Central Oregon and the events that you have had in during Black History Month and the impact you think those have had on the community?
The work the Fathers Group is doing has been tremendous because we're trying to impact young people's lives, period, right? There's no joy than looking at these young kids' faces and understanding they have people who are there for them. Yesterday, a young lady told me, I'm adopted, and yes, I'm doing better, but I feel like I'm by myself. That's a hard thing to hit you. And then a young lady tells me, Mr. Legrand, have you ever thought about being anything other than Black? So the work that we do impacts those beautiful kids to be able to have what they want. The Black History Celebration is basically to create conversations for us to have with one another and also give people information. We always say we're not educating, but we are educating even ourselves, right, on what we need. And I'm looking forward to all the things that we got coming about. We got a Juneteenth celebration. It's going to be 2 days in Central Oregon in one of the largest parks here. We don't get that in a lot of places. So being able to create those type things is phenomenal. And here's the thing. Yes, we're the Fathers Group and we're led by Black fathers, but guess what? We just don't want Black fathers. We want all fathers to talk to one another. The best thing Samuel L. Jackson said in The Time to Kill, your kids will never play with my kids. But Matthew McConaughey proved them wrong. That's all we want. Guess what? If we all find common bond with one another, we could be okay. That's why we do this work. That's why we sacrifice all the work we do. That's why we want people to contribute to the things that we do because it's necessary. And those kids deserve every minute of it. And I will never stop fighting to make sure that happens for those students. Because we know, and this is what we were taught in the Black community, you stand up for one another and you continue to keep pushing forward. Yes, I know there's some people may not like what we do, regardless of what we look like. But you know what? I don't care, because I know we're representing who we are. And that is powerful, strong, intelligent people. And that's why the
Absolutely.
fathers push so hard.
Thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you, Terrance, for your work. Ovi, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your time here in Central Oregon. You have let your light shine, my friend, and we are grateful. And I'll be coming to North Carolina to visit. So to close us out, I hope that this event was informative and enlightening for you. As you consider ways to empower our community, please consider donating to Love Your Neighbor. Love Your Neighbor operates solely off the gifts that we receive. Every panelist is paid for their time. So if you would like to see more of Love Your Neighbor, please donate. We truly do appreciate your support. I also want to acknowledge, as we close tonight, in honor of Black History Month, the suffering of our past, the joy and struggle of our present, and the hope that we have for our future. Please listen to these words and then act. I'm gonna make a change for once in my life. It's gonna feel real good. It's gonna make a difference. It's gonna make it right. As I turn up the collar on my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind. I see the kids in the street with not enough to eat. Who am I to be blind, pretending not to see their needs? I'm starting with the person in the mirror. I'm asking them to change their ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. Love your neighbor, regardless of the skin that they are in. Good night.